All right. Hey, it's looking like we're live here, Mickey.
How you doing today, Lars? How you doing? We have Patty XRP with us, and we have a great show in store today. We'll let everyone come in slowly, and then we'll get started around 8:05. Soon we'll get intro music, so we won't have to just talk here, regular just.
I hear you're taking singing lessons, right, Mickey?
that, that's one thing you definitely won't see me doing on YouTube anytime soon.
Hey, Mickey, I've got a question for you about centralization. And one of the big centralizations in our country is our power systems. And I guess the first thing to do is um, just wishes for well-being for everybody suffering from the cold. There's a lot of people that are really suffering with that. Uh, but I used to be in engineering, mechanical engineering, and we looked at these power systems and the way our power is distributed across the country and the big grids and stuff like that. And now we have this example of Texas having its own grid. And I'm just wondering if you and Patty have any thoughts about like that, and then decentralization on cryptocurrency, and any thoughts on that? I
Sure.
know I'm just surprising with you here these
No.
first couple minutes.
No, I do. I think that's interesting with the power grids because in the future, once we're able to actually trade energy. So, for example, somebody who owns a Tesla and wants to charge their car could actually purchase the energy from somebody's residential home who has extra power from their solar panels. And like that's possible in the future with the Internet of Things. And that's why I think it's really interesting with Tesla coming on and energy trading is kind of the next thing I think we see in the future. But that can't be done on smart contract networks that have high gas fees and don't have really instant settlement. So on Ethereum, you're not going to be able to trade energy. And I know there's a couple projects out there now, but that's something that I think in the future we're really going to see. And Flare is kind of an ideal network for that. And then when it comes to decentralization versus centralization, there's different types of decentralization. So when it comes to actually like the consensus algorithms, the validators are running all the same software. So they can't act maliciously unless they change that software. So that's why one thing that was interesting when one of Ripple's patents was to verify that all the validators are running the right software. Say they're XRP ledger validators or miners. If you could verify they're all running the exact same software, then technically the protocol is already decentralized because nobody could act maliciously then. And if one does have the wrong software running, then you could remove them from the UNL. And I think that's where we see this go in the future. And then there's the aspect of decentralization, as in no centralized control. So in the public blockchain, there wouldn't be. But for example, say, let's compare like centralized stablecoins to decentralized ones. Centralized has counterparties, that comes with counterparty risk, comes with geopolitical, wherever that jurisdiction it was issued from, and it could be censored. So it could be frozen. Where decentralized stablecoins, you don't have that censor capability, and there's no counterparty because there's no actual issuer. So the smart contract is the issuer, and that's software. So it's decentralized, and you don't have an entity that you actually trust.
Just the amount that is changing with decentralization coming is just
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I only
in all
glanced.
these different arenas.
I only really touched the surface there, but you're right. With I think DeFi, I mean now we're really seeing what the power of decentralization is in some of the great things that are created, but we've also seen some of the failures and some of the weak points of these experimental DeFi primitives. And we're going to touch on that later today because Patty has been doing a deep dive for the last couple of days and wrote an excellent blog on this. So we will dive into that during this. And I'm looking forward to learning myself about how flash loans work and where the weaknesses are, specifically like on Ethereum, and then how on Flare and certain other networks they could be minimized or basically eliminated to some extent.
All right. Well, maybe we should step into that. But first, I guess I just want to confess that I am just barely keeping my head above water with all this stuff. And my wife was actually asking me today. She said, "Lars, all this stuff you're learning, do you actually have to know it in order to be able to use the Flare network when it comes out?" And I thought about it for a little bit, and it's like some of the deepest details, no, but like knowing how this thing works, it's like, yeah, I need to spend the time, or I feel like I want to as well, but I need to spend the time to understand this. This is an enormous societal change that's coming, but on just the level of how am I going to do with this airdrop that was basically given to me, and how much of a return am I going to get? We need to understand this stuff. So tonight we're gonna kind of start in with looking at the yearn hack. I'm not sure exactly what it's even called. And Patty, you're gonna walk us through that. It's gonna just be a chance to sort of expand our understanding of the whole DeFi space, some of its limitations. And the nice thing, if I understand it right from you, Patty, is this is not something that's going to happen on Flare.
Yeah, so one of the main things that made it possible for the DeFi hack to happen on yearn, and when I say that it's a hack, it's more just like a gaming of the system. I'm not even really sure if what happened is illegal in any way, because the attacker just used products that were available to them in a very sophisticated way to attack a 3-asset liquidity pool of USDC, DAI, and USDT. Now, that I didn't even know there were 3-asset liquidity pools before I started looking into this. So there's a lot of crazy products out there, but I think one of the big questions this raises is, how crazy do we need to get with all of these DeFi products? And at a certain point, are we introducing systemic risk unnecessarily into one of these networks? So Ethereum's kind of been the Wild West for DeFi, where every and any kind of project has been popping up over the past couple of years, and that has definitely helped with the boom in the DeFi space. I mean, you see these DeFi coins zooming up in value every other day that don't even have their own native blockchain. They're just being built as ERC20 tokens on top of the Ethereum blockchain. But yeah, I think what we could first start off with is the main product that enabled this kind of attack, and those are called flash loans. So in short, a flash loan is an uncollateralized loan. So it's naked basically. And whoever wants to take one of those loans can basically lever themselves up to extreme amounts. So in the case of this yearn finance DeFi hack, they were able to accrue $342 million worth of Ethereum. So I believe the number was 145K individual Ethereum tokens that they got by posting no collateral, which
Wow.
on its face is insane to me. You think about, the GameStop thing, going back to that, and how basically the GameStop stock was overshorted by 150% around that amount. And that same thing that I feel like we're trying to get away from with blockchain, and that systemic risk that's posed in the centralized financial system, is brought over to Ethereum in that way.
So Patty, I'm going to interrupt you just as the guy who's trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
And one of the questions with a flash loan, so they can get this loan and it has to happen in like one Ethereum block. How long is that? And how much time do they get to play with a flash loan if someone takes one of those?
Yeah, so excellent question. A flash loan is not, or rather an Ethereum block isn't a unit of time. Rather, it's the amount of steps that one can take within a single Ethereum block transaction is governed by the gas fee. So Ethereum has a max gas fee that you can go to, but theoretically you could take infinite steps within one Ethereum block transaction before ever having to close out any positions. So the thing with a flash loan is it's a way to give people with no capital to back it up lots of value to use, but the entire flash loan must be returned back to the original issuer plus a fee for it within that one block transaction, or else the loan will fail and nothing else the attacker did or the user did rather will be committed onto the blockchain at that point.
Okay, so in this case, the user actually did a bunch of repeated steps with a little bit I understand, but you said there was a three-sided liquidity pool that they were dealing with. And just before we start, like, so a liquidity pool in Flare Finance, there's going to be two-sided liquidity pools that we know about. But in a three-sided one, there's three different assets. You'll tell us which ones they were, but you have to maintain the same value. So 1/3 of each of those coins has to be in the pool. And as the values change, then the actual amounts of the coin would change. Is that right? Or can you explain that a little better before we get started so we know what's going on with this?
Yeah, so basically there's a price ratio between the three assets in the pool. So in this case, it's called a curve 3 pool. The assets were US dollar stablecoin, DAI, and then USDT, so Tether. So these are all balanced out across the liquidity pool. So if one side loses value or the amount of the asset goes out of balance, then the liquidity pool is going to incentivize people to provide liquidity for that side of the pool that is now out of balance so that you can seamlessly trade between the assets within that liquidity pool. So that's the general nature of what's going on there.
Okay. All right. Carry on. Give us a story.
Cool. Yeah. So to start off with some numbers, the estimated losses from what is termed a yearn finance vault. So that is people who trusted in the yearn finance protocol to safely store their assets in this vault. And they were basically providing backup liquidity to the Curve 3 pool. In return for them staking their assets in that vault, they would receive an APY, just like you would do with like any kind of centralized finance protocol like Nexo. And then from there, the attackers were able to make away with a $2.8 million profit, which honestly seems pretty small from that amount I was talking about earlier that they got in flash loans at 342 million. But the attackers, when they got the flash loan, were able to then go and post that loan as collateral for the USDC and the DAI part of that Curve 3 pool. So they bought hundreds of millions of dollars in USDC and DAI. And then the next thing they did, they basically flooded the USDC and DAI sides of the pool to throw the price ratio balance out of whack. And then they pulled out 165 million Tether. So they significantly increased two sides of the pool and then significantly decreased one side of the pool. So that was the main game they were playing, and they would just run through this multiple times with smaller and smaller amounts until they ran out of capital or basically were caught doing it, which I want to say took 11 minutes for the yearn finance dev team to catch on and stop it from happening. So, it's pretty sophisticated. And one of the things I picked up, and thank you very much to, I think you're in the stream, David Hamilton, for providing all these resources in our Telegram group, because it helped out a ton. But they have, there's multiple case studies on flash loans and DeFi hacks at this point. And one of the big things I learned from it was that these smart contracts on Ethereum are able to extend the number of steps you can take within that single block transaction. So it basically creates a massive chain reaction. So they were able to do all these steps. And, I'm not totally enlightened on how the fees are processed, or the gas fees basically add up, but they stayed under that max cap. They figured out what they were supposed to do. They also caught the yearn finance protocol in a system upgrade where they were moving from one version of the vault to another. So they were clearly watching this for a long time and then took action when it was proper to strike. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mickey, can you hear us? All right. Okay, so I can hear you. I guess we need to know if folks can hear us. We're having a little bit of an issue here with the input. So can you put in the chat if you can hear Mickey when he speaks? What do we got going? I can hear you, Mickey. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still waiting. Okay, good. Oh, somebody said they can't hear Mickey. So can you hear Mickey when Mickey, go ahead and say something, Mickey. So Mickey, how about you knock out of the Zoom and come back in, see if that works. Oh, well then we're gonna lose. All right. Okay, thanks everybody for letting us know that we can't hear Mickey. So if we do lose the stream, we'll come back another time. But hopefully we can get this figured out. All right, so why don't we continue with this, and hopefully, Mickey, you can get this figured out. But before we go any further, you said they had like 11 minutes before they found it. And one of the things you wrote about in your blog, which is over at the DeFi Standard, and I invite you to go and read that because Patty, that was really, I learned so much by reading that. Could this or could this not happen as you understand it over on Flare and Flare Finance?
Yeah, so one thing about the Flare network transactions is the speed in transactions per second is much faster. So that would definitely increase the difficulty. And the main thing that makes the flash loans possibly, or you're able to use them on Ethereum, is the fact is they have that multi-step counting for each Ethereum block transaction. So I think the dangers from a flash loan are extreme, like much more mitigated on the Flare network. But also we have the ability as Spark and Flare holders to set parameters and govern the network. And also like any application that is going to use Spark, you'll always be able to take votes on if that should be a product allowed on the network. So these are kind of steps that are taken to make sure this doesn't happen on Flare. Also, as I was saying, like Ethereum's kind of the Wild West. So with Flare, they're going through a number of security audits. Hugo and his team are into complexity theory and former derivatives traders. So they're very familiar with systemic risk and everything that they're doing up into this point. And, part of the reason I think it's taking longer for the network to launch than originally anticipated is due to making sure the entire thing is secure. But one thing we can do as a community after it launches and going forward is when we vote on important topics like this and what to allow on the network, especially in regards to when it's being used with Spark, we need to think about the entire system as a whole and maybe not what is most beneficial to the individual. There may be some middle ground to hit from there. So on that note, I kind of would like to get into some of the risk versus opportunity costs with using Flare, if that sounds good with you.
Sounds real good to me. You're the one that got the finance degree, so bring it on.
Yeah. What I wanted to touch on with this is basically some examples of risk and then opportunity costs within Flare Network. Because obviously, when I saw this DeFi hack, I didn't realize it was as big of a problem on Ethereum as when I first figured out about it. And with Flare, there's a few things that I would definitely consider as risks. So you need to be able to trust the underlying technology and protocol that it's running on. So I think that's, you know, important to get a grasp on that, so you can trust the system. You need to know who's building it out. So from my viewpoint, Hugo and his team are very experienced, and they're being very transparent with everything they're doing to build out this network. They're getting security audits. Flare Finance, I saw, was getting a security audit right now with Trail Bits. And I imagine that documentation on those will be out, so you can make your own decisions before, you know, trusting your money with this kind of network. And then on top of that, some things that are basically no risk would be like the FTSO detachable vote. So you can earn yield from that. Whenever you delegate your vote to a signal provider, it's not like you're putting any money up. So you're not risking that portion of your assets. The only risk you have is for holding Flare and if the price goes up and down. But that's just like with any other crypto you have at this point in time. There, you know, other than a stable coin, the price is going to fluctuate. But that yield you're getting from the FTSO doesn't require you to put any capital at stake, which I think's a really novel idea and something that's going to be really beneficial in the long term for the growth of the network. Additionally, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I've heard Mickey talk about like this FTSO. So just to back up, it's the Flare time series oracle, and it's what the signal providers are. They're going out and getting pricing, and they're providing it to this FTSO. But that's either fairly unique or completely unique to the Flare network.
Yes, yeah. So on that point with like Chainlink, it's you know, it's just going through that one system. So you're kind of only trusting Chainlink to pull in the data. But with the FTSO, you're going to have a large marketplace of signal providers, and some of those signal providers will take the data that they're going to send to the Flare time series oracle from Chainlink, and then other oracles, and they'll have algorithms that they built out that will pull data from wherever they think is the best, most accurate data and up to date. So it'll basically be like decentralized data feeds going through the FTSO, which really is going to help give the best pricing for all these assets. And especially like with what Mickey was saying earlier in his stablecoin video, is this will greatly help with like the collateral ratios and making sure all that stays in line going forward.
It's one of the things that makes me like feel more comfortable with Flare, is that this is something that makes it more stable. To have a completely decentralized price feed is it takes it out of the control of like a central authority, like trying to game the system. Like people say, you know, like silver prices are being fixed or something like that. That's actually impossible to do on this network with the way it's been set up.
Yeah, exactly. The level of decentralization throughout the entire thing is pretty impressive. You know, every aspect of it is decentralized, even down to the pricing, which I had never really even thought of before as something that's important. But obviously, it's very clear. Like you think about Coin Market Cap, that website is kind of like, you know, I feel like the top one in terms of crypto prices. But we've seen things with XRP in the past where they cut out the Korean side of the market for trading volume, or depending on what digital asset it is, they count the total supply differently to the market cap. So we all know how like half of XRP's total supply that's locked in escrow right now is not counted to the market cap. So, you know, all these different things, but, you know, BTC, they count its entire supply that it will have. But like we'll be able, yeah, there you go. Mickey's back. Can everybody hear Mickey now? Oh.
Oh, so Mickey, you get to talk to us in the live chat here. There's a number of people missing that New York accent. Okay.
Gotcha.
So Mickey just said that his screen blacked out, so he can't unmute himself. So Patty and I can actually hear him. So now we're really nervous, aren't we, Patty? Go ahead, Patty.
I know. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, well, so I kind of go back to the risk too. Some of the other things is this ability to create a collateralized debt position, which is going to take a little more sophistication and awareness on the part of the investor. And then you have to worry about something like liquidation risk if your ratio gets too far out of line. So these are all going to be important things, to realize what your risk level are with different products within Flare. And then also you just are going to have to make sure you believe the underlying tech is sound and safe before you're putting your money in any of these things. Nobody like us can sit here and tell you, oh yeah, it's definitely safe. Like, you need to look into those things on your own and be smart about it and make the best decisions for yourself. I think that's like a really important point. And then additionally, on the point of opportunity costs, so when you're minting an F asset, since you're going to be paying that creation fee, let's say to mint FXRP.
So wait a minute, Patty. Let's stop here. We were talking about the FTSO. Okay, so I just want to back up because it's taken me so long to get this in my mind. So the FTSO kind of sounds like an F asset, but it's completely different. That's the pricing part of it. And it's like Flare has these two halves, and one is this pricing part, this decentralized part. And now, Patty, you're starting to step over into the second part of it, which is the F assets. And it's like the FXRP, and it's how value comes on and it becomes a part of the network. So the pricing part on one side, you were talking about that, FTSO and signal providers. Now we're stepping over to F assets. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, yeah, and I appreciate that. So, yeah, and one point with FTSO, which I didn't bring up, is it's extremely important to have those decentralized price feeds for all the F assets, so you can maintain that one-to-one peg between XRP and FXRP. Because if that peg doesn't exist, then it kind of breaks down the whole system. So you can see why they're incentivizing users to provide data through the FTSO.
So let's just take a moment there, like the incentive for this pricing. This totally struck me when I got it was the inflation in the system. There's going to be continually more coins, more Flare or Spark tokens generated in the system, and they're all going to reward this pricing mechanism. So when you vote with your coin, that's one of the things you're going to be able to do to generate income. You're going to vote with your Spark token for which signal providers you want to support, and you're going to get rewarded. As Mickey says, you're going to get airdropped this reward, and it's the inflation, the actual inflation of the system goes to that. And my point is just, it's that important. That's what, Patty, you were just saying how important it is, but it's that important. They designated all of the inflation to make this decentralized pricing system. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's extremely important. And it also feeds it to all the network effects and how all the different pieces of the network are going to fit together and drive value between one another. But yeah, to get back into that point, so the F assets are going to have that one-to-one price peg between the version on Flare and the native version of the asset on the native blockchain. And those are going to be driven by the price feeds in the FTSO. But in order to mint these F assets, you're going to have to pay a creation fee, which in the blogs was originally being used 5% as an example. But recently in the Flare Telegram group, Hugo said that that rate essentially is not determined yet, and that it will more than likely be lower than 5%. So, me as someone who loves their XRP, that sounded like music to my ears. I'm like, oh, nice. I can mint more FXRP in the future and have to pay a lower creation fee. And I'm sure everybody else will be happy to hear that. Another interesting point that he brought up was the fact that they may create a bidding system to get F assets minted. So in that case, let's say a bunch of people there's high demand to mint FXRP, but the issuance cap isn't high enough for everybody to do this at once. And for those that don't know, the issuance cap is a formula that's located in the FXRP white paper that basically says how many F assets can be minted at once, which depends on the available flare supply available to be posted as collateral, and then what the price of flare is, and then also what is the value of the assets that need to be minted into an F asset. So on that note, you can see how if the issuance cap is too low at the time and there's higher demand than the supply available of F assets to be minted, then the price of flare is going to have to move up by virtue of supply and demand with prices. So I think that's an important mechanism in the value of flare going forward is, these trade-offs between creation fees, bidding for them, what the demand and supply is of F assets, and that's all going to drive value in the future.
And it's amazing they're putting so many of those decisions and parameters into the hands of us, the people who hold the Spark token.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most exciting points, is that the entire system is very community driven, and Hugo and his team are looking to cater to people that actually want to use blockchain networks. It's getting away from just sit here and watch your favorite coin pump for a few weeks. We're getting into a place where you want to drive value for an entire network, and that's going to take participation from everybody. I think it's interesting because, as XRP holders, I've always kind of thought that, maybe governments or large institutions would just turn on the valve and let the money flow through at the XRPL. But I'm starting to now think of it as they may want people to be there first, utilizing the network with some value on there before they're going to push all these things through. So, it's an interesting thought because it's been so long and we really haven't seen things ramp up as much as they should. But Flare is going to be an amazing complement to the XRP network that will keep the XRP ledger rather. It'll keep it open and free so that it can do what it does best, and that's payments. And then Flare is going to add on that additional functionality for more complex mathematical calculations to allow smart contracts for decentralized finance and whatever other, and data provisioning. So it's going to be very interesting dynamic going forward between.
It's interesting to think about this and to listen to other content providers. I think in the biggest scope of things, there's this tension between central authorities and the need to make decisions on national and global levels versus this sort of decentralizing motion that's been moving in our society for the last years. So long ago, I used to be a pastor, and I mean, if we think back, those of us that are old enough, there was a time when going to a church on a Sunday morning, this sort of centralized activity was just something you naturally did. And when I became a pastor in the 90s, it was a time when membership was dropping off in churches around the country, this decentralizing thing where people are going out and figuring out more local ways to do things. It's been a phenomenon, some people say, since the end of the Vietnam War. And I feel like, I'm kind of interested in those big picture things. And I'm really amazed that here I am, and this blockchain Flare is the deepest, the purest embodiment of decentralization that I've come along anywhere. So we were kind of going down the road of risk versus opportunity cost, and I'm kind of drifting here, but go ahead.
That's all right. I feel like I've said most of what I wanted to say there. I think people should understand that with any new system, there's going to be some risk there. You're going to need to feel comfortable that the underlying system is secure. And, luckily we have these security audits going on for Flare and Flare Finance. So we should be learning more about those. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come out with. And, this may be something that people, I've seen a lot of people ask to bring us into a new topic. But I thought it'd be interesting to touch on is I've seen a lot of questions around what kind of APY could be expected from Flare. So Mickey's talked about all these wonderful ways to earn passive income with your assets, whether it be from minting F assets as F Doge, FLTC, or FXRP, or delegating votes to Flare Time Series Oracle, jumping into the DeFi products and Flare Finance. So in short, there is no set APY that any one person can calculate. And the reason behind this are there are many variables that go into the reward rates that are coming out of the FTSO and for the F asset rewards pools. So some of these variables that are going to matter are what's the participation level of people that are holding Flare or FXRP or FLTC, and then also what is the Flare supply at the time, and then obviously the price. So the biggest variable that's going to affect how many rewards are going to come out of the network, especially from the FTSO, is going to be the participation rate. And the curve, basically the yield curve is the lower the participation rate, the exponentially higher the rewards. So I think that's something very important to understand, that let's say in the first week, people are slow to pick this up. You could maybe earn enough in Flare coming out of the FTSO to make yourself very happy for the rest of the network's life. But it's all going to be dependent on the participation. And over time, as people see the yield that you can earn from the Flare network, obviously the participation rate's going to go up. But if more people are coming on to the Flare network, then this is going to drive the value of Spark Flare higher. So you can see how there's kind of this little dynamic going on between the two, where maybe the exact APY you've been getting in Spark is lower, but if the price of Spark is higher, that means you're basically still getting that same like high amount of US dollar value that you would want. So it's like a very dynamic, I guess I'd say a dynamic marketplace with many factors. And, you know, right now we still don't know what it's going to look like. We're 3 months out from the Flare network being launched. And believe me when I say many of us have been trying to figure out what we could earn, because wouldn't it be nice to just kind of cut out on what you normally do and have some time for yourself because you have passive income coming in, or maybe take up a new project that you want to do. But unfortunately, there's just not enough data at this point to know what the network's going to look like. So we'll have to see as it gets closer to launch, and we should have a better idea of what the exact rewards pool numbers are going to be coming from, let's say, like the general F assets rewards pool, since that's going to be determined based on how many unclaimed Spark there are by XRP holders, which actually was a shockingly high number last time the Flare team wrote a blog about it. So it should be really interesting.
They're going to take those, if people don't claim their airdrop, that's going to go into this rewards pool. And I was saying, like, there's two sides of Flare, and that's going to go into the rewards pool that rewards you for minting FXRP. So that's the one side of it. And then the other side is this inflation rate, where for the first 6 months, there's going to be 5 billion Spark tokens that are distributed to those who are delegating their votes to the people that are doing the pricing, the signal providers.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a thought in my mind, Patty. It's like, because this idea of a participation rate, and I did want to say a few things about that, and the fact that, you know, we're all here together in this conversation, and we're watching Mickey's videos, and we're studying, we're learning, we're trying to get a handle around this. I think it's not that many people that are doing that right now. And I've thought about a couple things. So imagine that if only one Spark token ended up being, you know, designated to the signal provider in the beginning, one vote, that one vote would get all of the rewards. So that's like the minimum participation, right? Just one Spark token. If everybody did it, then that same reward would be distributed amongst all of those different votes. So that's the piece about the participation. It's a piece Mickey's been just hammering home to us. It's like, you want to be there right when this starts. And like Patty's saying, you want to understand this well enough so you can make a confident choice of whether or not you want to participate in it. But two things I thought about is, for a lot of us who have XRP, we really were different than just trading this coin. You know, we bought it to hold it until it appreciated to a very high price. So I think that there's a pretty big hurdle to come over for XRP holders to think about minting their XRP into FXRP, or to do anything with their XRP that could put it at any. I think that's going to lower participation in the beginning until people will get comfortable. And then the second thing I thought is, like, we've talked about the Ethereum people coming over because it's so much cheaper and faster and more effective to use Flare than the Ethereum network. But there's going to be an inertia during when people have to like check it out and decide and see if they want to. So again, everything points towards what Mickey is saying, that in the beginning is going to be by far, and like you just said, Patty, the most advantageous time to be participating in the network for the rewards. So go ahead.
Yeah, and on that point that you're making, like, you know, I'm not going to promise you guys any return rates or APYs or anything like that, but I've been looking through the numbers, and based on the way the system is set up, it's meant to bootstrap value at the beginning. So basically Flare can have a running head start. And that's part of the reason why they didn't go through this ICO process. You know, they wanted to distribute this asset out to a community that could use some utility for their asset for one reason or another. And also, the XRP ledger provides many benefits in connecting with Flare. So they're basically using these rewards to drive value onto the network and prove its use cases that way. So if you want to, be an early adopter and take the leap after you've done your own research and feel good about it, you could pay off very well from this. But, everybody has to make their own decision on that. Obviously, we're really excited about it. That's why we're talking about it. That's why, we made the website and Mickey does his videos, is because, we just want to give people an opportunity to learn about Flare in an otherwise cluttered industry that's very hard to navigate through.
So it might, Patty, like you're saying, I mean, it could just be a crazy yield that comes back to us. But I think in terms of understanding that, instead of thinking about like what sort of interest can I get on it, and why would Flare make it so high, and the goal, because you said it there, and I just wanted to like highlight that. I think that my understanding is what Flare wants to do is to get their network up and operating. So they're actually not concerned with, oh, is that a fair percentage rate that we're giving to Patty? Do we need to give them a little bit more? What they want to get these coins out. They've already airdropped a huge percentage of the network's tokens out to XRP holders. And now they've got a huge another percentage of tokens that they want to get into the system. And so that I think is their take on it. We just need to get these into the system. And if we're standing there ready to receive them like we were the airdrop, if everything goes as expected, we stand to just get a lot more of them. And their desire would be, as Mickey says, that we would be, as Hugo says, we would become good citizens of this network, help to run it well so it doesn't end up into an Ethereum hack like just happened the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so Lars, I figured, we're about 45 minutes in, but I saw some people throwing in some questions. So I don't know how you feel about if we tackle a couple of those, maybe get a little interaction with the chat. Especially, I feel like we've gone a little while. I definitely was expecting Mickey to be on the whole time. So sorry about that, everyone. But, you know, weather up in New York, I think, is causing him some internet issues and stuff. But looking through this chat, so right here, I saw somebody asking, is it true? This is from J Runk 123. Is it true that you can lose flare when staking the FTSO if the provider is a bad actor? What if it's not a bad actor, but not in the sweet spot of price? So yes, I think this is a good question. Don't think of what you're doing when you delegate your detachable vote to a signal provider for the FTSO as staking. That normally requires you to put value into something. So with Spark, it's programmable money. So the way the code's written, you can detach this vote that's basically used with the Spark token, hand it off to, you could hand it off to every signal provider out there and just spread out all of your Spark and even the amounts to each one to kind of hedge what kind of success rate you're going to have with each. But basically what he's asking is the sweet spot of price. So the way to be in that is you have to be within the median 50% of the data feeds provided for each closure of the FTSO to be awarded for that time series on the Flare time series Oracle. So I think what will happen is we're going to see a lot of these signal providers. They'll be posting their data like, oh, look, we have a success rate of 90%. So our fee is going to be, we're going to take 5% of the Spark you earn from each successful delegation of data to the time series Oracle. And they're going to all offer different rates. Maybe somebody has an 80% success rate, but they charge a lower fee because of it, and you decide to use them for that lower fee. Maybe there's other signal providers where they just say, delegate your votes with us, and we'll just pay you a flat rate no matter what our success rate is. So I think there's going to be a lot of options when it comes to these signal providers. Create a marketplace, and while the fees may start off higher, I think they're going to move down over time as there's more signal providers in the space and it gets more competitive.
Nice. Don, I noticed in here is giving some comments, and earlier I noticed that you had said you'd been in finance for 37 years and just were impressed that these certifications are going on for the network before it's being launched, and that's giving you more confidence. So bowing to your experience in the finance field, it makes me feel good too.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I don't work in finance currently, but yeah, I did go to school for finance, and I've been following the entire time I've been out of school, just didn't end up going that route. But I'm glad that blockchain came around because it kind of gave me renewed vigor for the whole thing. And I just love the new way of thinking. But yeah, I'm going to look and see if there's a couple more questions we can answer, and then maybe we can wrap it up for the night.
Right. Well, yeah, you go ahead and take a look there for a second. And if you're not getting your question answered here, please make sure that they're posted. We're going to look through them again afterwards. The moderators, thank you to our moderators. And we'll get the answers to you. Put them in the comments below videos. We always check through those as well. And there was a whopper of a video today that Mickey put out on, as he said, one of his favorite topics, the global stablecoin. And I just wanted to make a note that, sometimes we just listen to stuff and it's like, oh yeah, I heard that. What Mickey is putting out is really worth studying. And Mickey has said it's taken him hundreds of hours to put this together. And, we're not just listening to light news when Mickey is sharing these things with us. They really are something to go back, hit the pause button, look up that term if you don't understand it, spend the time with it. We've still got a couple months before Flare launches, but I am spending so much time trying to get my head wrapped around this. And the more I do, the more impressed I am, and the more thankful I am for this chance. So, Patty, back to you.
Yeah, love it, Lars. So I see two questions, and I think we can probably wrap it up after I get those. But the first one is from, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but I believe it's Jeannie Moore Payne. And she asked, when we mint FXRP, do we have to loan it or use it to get a reward? So Jeannie, the nice thing is once you pay the creation fee to mint FXRP, You literally do not have to do anything else with it to get the F asset rewards from the F asset rewards pool, which will be delivered to you in Spark. But the nice thing about minting FXRP is that you can use it to delegate the vote associated with it to the signal providers, which does not earn you any Spark back from the FTSO. But Hugo wrote in one of the blogs that a marketplace may develop where signal providers will pay you for that vote to add to their voting power, so they can get more of their total like signal into that median 50% we were talking about. Also, they could be used to help mint a decentralized collateralized stablecoin like Mickey had in his video earlier today with the USF idea. And you could lend that out and earn additional yield that way. So hopefully that helps you with that question. And then from Brad Moyers, and Brad, I've definitely seen you in the comments a few times, so thanks for coming around. So he says, what happens to the 5% fee for minting? Will it be stored on the network as collateral for the native stablecoin, or will it be used for collateralized loans with profits distributed to F asset holders? So when you pay that 5% creation fee or whatever that rate is going to be, that is going to be delivered to the agents as payment for their service of putting up Spark as collateral. So in the future, any Spark holder will be able to perform that function of posting collateral. And we don't really know how that's going to work exactly yet. We're hoping that there's going to be more documentation put out on how the agents function. I kind of have speculated that there might be some autonomous agents where you just give your Spark to them and then they will manage the collateral positions on the F assets. But yeah, so that 5% is going to be dispersed to the agents that are posting collateral, basically as a, thank you for the service. So you can get your FXRP and earn Spark rewards that way. Yeah, but hopefully those answer. Also, Lars, it looks like we have a pretty generous super chat if you see that.
I do, yeah, $50 there. Thank you so much. Yeah, what an appreciation for that. We are actually starting a Patreon. This is now Mickey's full-time job, and we are really benefiting from that. We'll talk about it more next time. I see Don has put the link to the Patreon in there. What we're going to have in there is a Telegram group where Mickey is going to be participating in that. You're going to be getting his voice notes. And so that's starting up. We'll talk about that more next time when Mickey is back, or maybe it's a good time to talk about it when he can't say anything. Who knows?
But yeah, I know. Yeah. No, but I mean,
super. Go ahead, Patty.
On that point, yeah, all the videos are still going to be coming out. You guys aren't going to be missing any of the great content that's on YouTube, but it's just offering people, if you want to donate, since Mickey's doing this as full time, which means we're going to get a lot more information. And a lot of behind the scenes stuff goes into this. So if you're into that and, want to support and join a group of really smart people that are interested in Flare and XRP, especially those two, feel free to look into that. But we're still going to have all the videos out here. We're going to be doing the live streams and everything. So you guys aren't going to be, and the website. Yeah, the website's going to be up too. I'm going to be working on, blogs on there. And on that note, before I forget, if you guys, I have basically with every blog post, the comments are labeled. So you guys can drop comments in there. I've, a lot of people ask questions. So you may find that there's a question there that you would, you had yourself and it's already been answered. Also, you can email us at the DeFiStandard@gmail.com. Depending on how many emails get through to that, I can't promise that I'll see every one, but maybe something you ask or suggest for the website may turn into a post at some point, or I can directly answer questions. But obviously, if I get a bunch of emails, I have a day job too, so I can't answer everything. But if you catch my eye, yeah.
Patty, huge thanks, Patty, for all your work on the DeFi standard. What an incredible resource that's becoming. And I'm hopeful that on one of these live streams coming up, we'll have time. I don't know how many videos Mickey's made now, 20, 30 or whatever, but we could just kind of go through and provide an outline of them and the major points and where to listen and stuff. Mickey, you've really provided an incredible education for us. And if we could put that in a framework and like, oh, look at this one and this one and this one, and this is sort of the major themes that go by, we could do that. Another thing we're going to be putting up at the DeFi standard is a page that'll be for people who are new to DeFi. And we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully that'll be useful too for people.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I just go to the website to find documents and stuff all the time because people, ask questions about Flare that I've forgotten, but I'm like, oh, I know the Flare blog's linked on here, or the Flare Finance short paper or something like that. So if, it makes it really easy to find stuff. And all of Mickey's videos are also on his page on the website under our contributors tab. So they're all divvied out by playlists. So like you have your XRP escrow series. I even went back and added all of Mickey's old videos with Brad to a playlist that you can watch directly on the site, or you can go to Mickey's YouTube page and check those out. If you want to go check back to that OG Holy Grail video with Brad and that whole crew. I remember that was a blast when that first came out. So if you want to take a trip down memory lane, that's available to you too. But yeah, no, we're looking forward to this. And, we're going to have, hopefully, like once we get more information on how to perform a lot of these functions, we can put guides out there and everything. Cause I know people want that. We just don't have, the access or information yet to do that. But, we're working on it and we're learning along with everybody else. So appreciate everybody that communicates with us and reaches out, asks questions, and all the thanks in the comments. You guys are really great, and it's been fun interacting with everybody from the community.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. It feels nice. I mean, these live streams when we get together and see the same names and here and a chance to be together in something that is really just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're right here at the beginning of it. So thank you so much. I think Mickey did his I'm Mickey Be Fresh and I'm out like what 40 minutes ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll do our best to get him back next time. We'll go looking for him. Otherwise, Patty, you got to get a New York accent.
Oh man, I don't know if I can do that. I say y'all a lot, so y'all can probably guess from that.
All right. Well, best wishes to y'all. Hope that any of you that are in cold places, you're warm and safe, and we very much look forward to the next time we can be together. Y'all have a good night. All right. See you soon again. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.